I'm here with Chris of Shrapnel to talk about In Gravity, their upcoming latest record on May 31st on Spine Farm. Thank you very much for taking the time today to talk about Shrapnel, to talk about In Gravity. How are things going with you?
Yeah, amazing, man. Yeah, really happy to talk to you about the new album. Excited for it to finally be coming out next week.
I'm sure you've been counting the days, maybe the months, maybe the years, because it's not like you just did it a month ago. This has probably been in the waiting. For how long have you guys been sitting on this record?
18 months. We delivered it to the record label, 18 months ago, finished, and we had a few delays. One where we had to wait for Scott Kennedy was doing the guest part, and we had to wait for him to finish his tour. He was touring the US with Bleed From Within. So we had a little bit of a delay with that, but then after that, it was just because of the vinyl production. So it kicked it back a long time.
This is what happens when hippies get a hold of metal, and now everybody wants vinyls again. I mean, we're going
That's
full
it.
circle. There's even tapes now. Like, who needs tapes? Seriously.
Yeah, I
Uh,
still
so
don't know
let,
anyone with a
so
tape player.
yeah, let me ask you this about the sound on this record. Is
Yeah.
this when you look at the sound on this album, is this more of you guys looking towards the future and less towards the past as far as previous releases are concerned?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely wanted to look more forward than backward this time. It's the first album we've down-tuned as well. So, I mean, we just wanted to try something new. We didn't want to be pigeonholed into the whole you can only be a thrash band and only play thrash songs all the time. And it was also a response to getting Dan in on vocals, who's an amazing vocalist. He's such a strong singer. Um, so yeah, the sound is looking forward. It's trying to modernize. It's trying to do something new. And yeah, I think it came out pretty good.
There's still some thrashy riffs in there, but it definitely has a little bit more of a modern vibe to it, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thrash is in our DNA. Like we've been doing it for a long time now. This year will be 15 years with us being a band together. Um, it's all we've ever done. So yeah, of course, there's going to be some thrashy bits in there. But we've definitely lent into our love of Gojira and Deftones and Alice in Chains and some other influences that we maybe wouldn't have looked at on previous records quite so much.
I would agree with that. Now, when you look at that shift or that shift, not only in sound but in mentality, because the shift in mentality has to happen before the shift in the sound has to happen.
Yeah.
What ended up being the most challenging aspect of creating a record that is slightly outside the box compared to where you guys were before in your comfort zone?
I would say that this album has been the easiest one for us to write and put together. And I think that's because in the past with our other records, you think about your favorite movies and your favorite stories, and maybe you read something in politics or history, and you're kind of making a statement and retelling a story and something like that. With this one, it's much more a reaction to the last 3 years for us. We've had 3 pretty shitty years, to be honest. We've all been through some really tough times. We've been through, divorce and losing family members, and everybody's had a pretty crappy time after COVID. But yeah, for us, the last 3 years have been, especially tough. And this album is about coping strategies. It is a coping strategy in itself. So it's us emptying our brains and our emotions and our hearts onto this one rather than finding things that we think are cool.
Well, maybe you find something that it's cool in it anyways.
Yeah.
You know?
So
Now, the guitar sound on this album, even compared to previous records, from an
yeah,
overall soundscape point of view, it felt to me a little bit more free, a little bit more loose, not as boxed in and not as restrained.
yeah.
What do you attribute to that experience?
Dan's vocals, 100%. I think the guitar playing, we'd written some songs with Aaron still in the band after Palace, and they ended up being the bonus tracks pretty much for that reason. I think they sound a bit more restrained. But Dan stepping in on vocals, he's such a strong vocalist, and you know, he's got such a great way of not only writing lyrics but the vocal melodies and harmonies and everything. We've been able to let him go a little bit and let him step forward a bit more than maybe our previous vocalists, which has allowed me and Nath to maybe roll back a little bit on the intricate sort of machine riffs, and the super thrashy stuff. And yeah, it's the blending, I think, of the guitars and the vocals this time that's really made that difference.
Was the adjustment for him quick? Was it easy for him to come in and become part of that machine?
It was insanely quick. Yeah, it was so natural, and it's been such it's been such a joy to have him in the band. You know, like records up to this point have been hard work. We've loved writing them, we've loved putting them together, but they've been hard work. This one, you know, Dan stepped in to fill in after Aaron left so that we could do a tour with Gamma Bomb, and he fit into the whole thing. You know, his voice fit into the music. He himself just fit in like he'd been with us the whole time. He's been easy to work with. He's been a pleasure to work with, and after that, the album just came together so quickly.
He obviously had an impact on your songwriting and how you approach the guitar sound, but was he also a part of the creative process? Did he take an active role in putting some of these songs together?
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, the last three tracks on the disc, As Above, So Below, and Absolution, are his. Um, he put those three songs were initially, when Dan gave it to us, it was one song. Dan's not afraid of writing some longer, more technical, more proggy songs. And he gave us the song. It was a bit too much the way it was, and it didn't kind of fit into the structure of the record and the track listing as one really long piece. So yeah, we were able to work with him on that and transform that into three pieces of music, two proper songs and one sort of interlude song in there. But yeah, if you listen to those songs, there's like motifs that follow through all three, and they're all dance songs.
With the addition of him on vocals and everything that he brings, will this allow you guys to continue to perhaps look outside of that musical box and try different things that maybe you haven't even tried on this record, like that you even thought about?
Absolutely. And that's the most exciting thing about having Dan join us, is that it opens so many doors on this record, and there are so many more doors that we haven't explored yet. And Dan can do everything. You know, he can do more guttural stuff, and he can do the whole thrash voice thing, but he can also sing. Like,
Sing.
he can sing
Yeah,
beautifully.
he can
So
sing.
yeah, it's refreshing and it's liberating, and yeah, it's very freeing. And I'm excited to see where we can go next.
At times, I felt like I was listening to a classic heavy metal singer in a thrash band with some more modern melodic songs. It was a really eclectic roadmap that you guys built. But one of the first things that I noticed, even before the sound kicked in, was
Right.
his range. His vocals were very different from anything you guys have ever had before.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was massively exciting for us. You know, he comes from a thrash band. You know, we've kind of stolen him from his band Reaper, who we all thought were amazing. And for us, he was just the best singer on the UK scene. And we were very lucky that he was happy to join us as well. He's still in Reaper, so go and check them out. But yeah, he's been amazing. And like you said, he can do that whole classic heavy metal thing, and you know, everything else. He can do everything. So, you know, he gets compared to Mark from Death Angel as well quite a lot on this record. But yeah, I'm excited for people to hear some of his more ambitious tracks as well.
No, one thing that it came to my mind is that I've seen a lot of bands, specifically thrash bands, have a little bit of a shift lately in terms of where they're going with their sound. When I look
Yeah.
at bands like Lost Society or Dust Bolt, for example, two bands that went from being a very traditional thrash metal band to being a more modern melodic to a certain extent, I think people would even categorize them as metalcore bands in terms of what their latest albums are like. When you look at Shrapnel and you see the evolution that this album offers, are you seeing yourselves going in a similar roadmap, into a similar path, and with every album, perhaps the thrash roots becoming a little bit more a distant path?
Um, Honestly, yes, I think so. I mean, like I said, I think that thrash thing is in our DNA. I'll think there'll always be some of it that appears at one point or another. You know, that's how we learned to play guitar. That's, you know, how Chris learned to play drums is along to those bands and the songs that all those songs that we grew up with. So it's there. It probably always will be there, and we'll always respect it and listen to it in our own time as well. Um, but we really don't want to be pigeonholed and put in that box of you have to do that. And the more we can experiment now, and the more we can explore new avenues and try new things, especially with Dan coming in on vocals and down tuning, and yeah, we've got a lot to try out, and we've got the lay of the land now is it's completely open to us. So yeah, the sky's the limit in terms of where we go.
I'm trying to get. I'm getting the impression that you guys did what you did because you were limited with the talent that you had, and now that you've developed, you guys have developed as musicians along the years, and you brought in a vocalist that definitely gives you a lot more to work with. It's like sky's the limit. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely that. I mean, and no, you know, I don't have anything bad at all to say about Jay and Aaron. They were incredible vocalists. They've offered Shrapnel so much. But yeah, I mean, we were restricted in what we could do, and we had to do the thrash thing because they were kind of thrash vocalists. But yeah, Aaron stepping out was a massive shame. But I think it's all ended up the best thing for both of us. And now we have Dan. Yeah, we're completely free to do whatever we want.
And I think there's an important aspect here, because when fan base listens to a record like this that kind of doesn't completely break ground, but it starts to separate what it used to be with what it is. There's always this like, oh, they sold out, like you know how it is. People always going to have that idea. I don't get that vibe. I got more of the vibe that you guys have matured as musicians, and where you were is now where you are. Like as people, life has changed. So the album is more a result, not necessarily of you guys selling out, but rather a result of where you are as people, and then the art that you create is just a reflection of where you are as an individual.
1,000% that is exactly what's going on. And you know, we could have put out another thrash record and tread the same ground again. But like I said, it's a coping mechanism for us, and it's us getting through some really hard times the last few years. And it wouldn't have translated the same to release a thrash record with these kind of topics. I don't think it's a little bit more mature. It's not as cheeky and aggressive as a thrash record would probably end up sounding. So yeah, it is a direct reflection of what we've been through for the last few years, where we're at as people, and you hit the nail on the head there. Yeah.
Do you have certain expectations for this album? Certain things that you want this album to allow you to do?
Most of all, we wanted to open the door for us to play with some bigger bands and do some touring. We just want people to hear it at the end of the day. I think we feel like we've been stuck in a place where I think we have 3 pretty great records, but the reach of those records hasn't been what we wanted. This record, I think, is a little bit more accessible, and I just want it to do bigger things. I think it's a bigger record. It's a bigger sounding record. It's a more ambitious record, and I just hope it brings in some more fans and puts us on some bigger stages.
The last album, if I'm not mistaken, came out during the pandemic,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that didn't help either.
Not at all. No, we've had the worst luck. Like, we always joke that the next time we release a record, it's going to be World War III or Meteor Strike or
I
something.
hope not.
Yeah, but we have that kind of luck, man. Like, we released the second record and things kind of fell apart with our record label, and they changed hands, and the band kind of fell apart a bit. And then we went to the third record, and then it was the pandemic, and then this one, touch wood, nothing's happened just yet.
Just yet. That's the
With a week to go.
there's still time. I mean, May 31st is
7 days, yeah.
still a bit away. Let's hope nothing happens. But yeah, having a record coming out in the pandemic, did that almost feel like a waste of a record in a certain sense?
Yeah, like, we do all of these things basically so we can tour and we can go and play with bands. We weren't able to do that at all. So we were amazed at how well it did, considering, and we were amazed at how much support we got for that record, considering no one could come and see us play, and considering we couldn't get out and really push and promote that record. But yeah, I mean, it like everybody else, the pandemic kind of killed the record off way too early. So we're hoping this one will be different.
Yeah, video killed the radio star, and the pandemic just killed everybody.
Everybody.
Just everybody. When you were putting this album together, considering the sound of the record, from a design standpoint, from a structural standpoint, was this an easier record to find, the right place, to find the right home for these songs in order to give the record a cohesive experience, but at the same time a very dynamic experience?
For the most part, yes. For the most part, we knew which songs were going where. There was only a couple tracks when we had all the demos that we have kind of swapped around a little bit. But it's been, everything fell into place really quickly and really easily. In Gravity was always kind of the opening track, since the demo was not finished initially, but with vocals. As soon as we heard Dan's takes on that track, that was like, yeah, it's kind of a signpost, right? For the rest of the record, it's saying this is where things are headed. It's different. You've got Scott Kennedy on there from Bleed From Within, a band that you might not expect us to, be associated with even. So, yeah, that track's always kind of been number one. And I would say the first three tracks haven't changed very much at all. The last three tracks haven't changed. So maybe the three in the middle kind of switched around a bit. But yeah, no, it's been really easy, really straightforward to put this one together.
That collaboration, was that your idea? Whose idea was to reach out to him and have him work with you guys?
So initially we had another guest that the label had suggested that we try and get on the disc, and it didn't work. Just logistically, we couldn't make it happen, timing wise and everything else. So what we did was I kind of had in mind the sound that we wanted to go for that midsection part. I reached out to a local singer to us in a band called Collapse the Sky, who are absolutely killing it in the minute. Lee came in, he wrote the vocal part for that midsection. He demoed it for us, and we actually have a mix master from Jens Bogren with Lee singing on it. But when we delivered it to the label, they heard Lee's takes and said that has to be Scott Kennedy. They're very much in the same vein, but the label had the connection. They heard it and they just wanted him on it straight away. So it was thanks to the label that Scott Kennedy stepped in. He did a great job. He had to finish his tour in the States, like I said before, with Bleed From Within. Sorry, I'm falling over my tongue there. And he got back and sent us the takes really quickly after that.
Does this open the door for a possible tour together with you guys?
Oh, yes, please. Yes, please.
Where do I sign?
Yeah. I hope so. Yes, please, Scott.
Yeah, make it happen. Make it happen. And that actually takes me to my last question for you. So there's no pandemic. There's no World War III, at least not yet. There's no meteorite shower. I mean, we did have an eclipse a few months back. So with the album coming out on May 31st, what does the future look like as far as live shows and touring is concerned?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm hoping this is the only thing that goes wrong, but actually we were booked to play Metal Days festival in Slovenia this summer. That's been cancelled, which actually threw out quite a bit of our logistics for this summer. So we have a local hometown kind of release show in July. We are doing a metal festival in France in August with Heathen. Can't wait to play with those guys.
Oh, I'm seeing them
And
this Friday, actually.
amazing. Yeah. Are you actually meeting them, or just going to see them?
No, I'm actually doing a video with Craig and Kyle. We're doing a road gear video for them to showcase
Amazing.
what they
Well,
use when they're on the road and stuff.
well, I mean, say hello from us, man, because obviously Cragen did the Damage Inc. cover with us before, and yeah, they're good friends of ours. So yeah, we're looking forward to playing with them. And then towards the end of the year, sort of after September, we're looking at doing extensive UK and Europe tour.
Oh, so some cool shit in the wings.
Yeah. Not as soon as I'd like. We want to go now. You know, we go tomorrow, but yeah, it's coming.
By the way, I've never asked you this, but when you said a local show, like a release show in July in your hometown, where are you specifically from?
Norwich in the UK.
Oh, yeah, I know it
East.
because of the football team.
Okay.
My knowledge of geography comes down to football teams. I mean, if you don't have a football team, I have no clue where you are. So like
Yeah,
that's
I think most people for the UK know it by the football team. So yeah,
all right, perfect. They're not doing as good as they once did, but you know, there's always
oh,
next year.
they're yo-yos. They're up and down all the time, aren't they? So
Yeah, yeah, they're a little bit of a yo-yo kind of team. I mean, they're not the only one, but you know, it's tough when you're competing against the men cities of the world with the budgets that they have. So let's not get into that. Chris, thank you very much for your time, man. I really appreciated talking to you about Shrapnel and the new record In Gravity out May 31st on Spine Farm Records. I hope all your dreams come true, and I hope this album delivers what the last one, the pandemic, didn't allow it.
thanks, man. Pleasure talking to you, and
All
appreciate the
right,
kind
man.
words on the record as well.
All right, all the best. Take care, man.
Take care, man. Thanks. Bye.